Welcome to Yoga with Sara. This is my own special blend of Yin Yoga and Bowspring Yoga. I combined the stretchy, slow mindfulness of Yin with the strength-building aspect of Bowspring, creating a class series which balances strong and stretchy. This class was recorded live and has been edited for clarity, privacy, and length. Enjoy! Okay, welcome everybody. Yin Relax and Bowspring Elements, number 7 of 9. Today's props are pretty minimal. I just want you to have a wall. I want you to be able to do legs up the wall, reclining bound angle, and to spin yourself to a 45, one foot on the floor, and then one leg open. So that's your space requirements for the wall. None of that has to be done at the wall. If you don't have a wall, you can do, just legs out, forward fold. You can do bound angle, seated, but it's so nice to do it at the wall. It's just a little bit more restorative. A couple things you might want. Sometimes it's nice to have blocks to land your knees on. That could be an option. Or if you don't have that or you don't like it, a belt would be okay too. Then you could have a spinal strip. And of course for Shavasana, all the regular blankets, pillows. We will start out on our backs laying with knees bent. So if you want to set yourself up with your extra blanket on your mat, you can. And make it that it's also wide enough that you can, send your legs to the wall without having to have your head off on the floor, if possible. All right, coming down to your back, letting yourself settle in here. Before we do anything, let's sprawl ourselves out. Let your arms and legs go a bit wider so the feet are out to the corners of the mat. The arms are away from the body. And let's take a baseline body scan. Noticing what's comfortable in your body, what's uncomfortable in your body. Is anywhere calling you? I think I was sitting on my shin or something because I'm really noticing almost like a pressure feeling on my right shin. And I'm definitely noticing my low back. I've been doing some gardening for the last couple of days. I've been trying to go out in the afternoon and just do a little digging and a little planting. And I'm noticing it as I lay here. Check in with yourself. And begin to let the breath become interesting to you. Feel the rise and fall of the belly, the chest, the ribs. Even notice how, as you breathe, other things shift in your body. You might notice sensation in this low belly or down into the pelvic floor. You might notice on the exhales that even the skin can start to relax on the body. And if that doesn't happen by itself, go ahead and try to let it happen. You might even take a deep inhale and sigh it out loud as a cue to your nervous system that it's time to soften. It's time to relax. It's time to be quiet. Good. Now remembering how you feel here before we start our movement, before we work into the body. And then we can do a check-in, a body scan afterward as well. And maybe we'll even pause in the middle and see, how are we doing? How are we feeling? When you feel ready, just gently roll the legs inward and outward, inward and outward. And for me, it's more comfortable to roll them inward and then draw one leg in and then the other. But for you, it might be different. It might be keeping them aligned or rolling outward and drawing a leg in. Any way that is the most comfortable. Let your knees come to pointing at the ceiling. Let your elbows bend so your hands can rest on your hip bones, the fingertips pointed kind of toward each other and toward the hip creases. I've got my thumbs up toward my belly button. Begin to find a little bit of movement here. We'll warm up with arch and flatten or arch and curl. So the somatic practice of lifting the belt line, the low back, away from the ground as the tail rolls deeper into the earth. The top of the pelvis is lifting off of the ground a bit. You're contracting the muscles of the lumbar spine, and then slowly release each muscle fiber. Try to do it, and we've got a lot of muscle fibers. Try to do it just one at a time. Impossible, but we can imagine it. Come to neutral. And then I invite you to engage the belly muscles. Draw the belly button toward the floor. This muscular engagement is what is working to flatten the lumbar spine to the earth. The spine is doing nothing. Slowly soften each belly muscle. Let the arms rest out by your sides. We will make this movement a little bit bigger. Arching the low back away from the ground, the tail presses toward the ground. Begin to press the shoulders to the earth and let the palms roll open. The shoulder blades might even tuck a little bit toward each other. The head can press into the ground. And feel how the whole back from tail to crown is now lit up with muscular engagement. Muscle fiber by fiber, soften your way back to neutral. Take a breath. Sigh it out. Contract the belly, draw it toward the floor. Let the tail curl between the legs. Let the shoulders float toward the sky, slowly rolling them into the heart as the palms roll down to the earth. Let the chin tip up to the sky. And then muscle fiber by muscle fiber, soften the front line back to neutral. I'm noticing my right shoulder is softening a little smoother and easier, and my left shoulder is going clunk, 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 clunk. So notice these things in your body. Let's change this again. If it works in your body, interlace your fingers behind your head. Elbows can either point at the sky, or if it's comfortable, they can lay out to the sides. Taking that arch again, lifting the lumbar, pressing the head into the hands. Lift the heart, the tops of the shoulders and the tip of the tail. Try to press to the earth. And slowly soften. When you get to neutral, pause, do nothing. And when you're ready to contract in the front line, let the elbows float to point to the sky. Draw the belly button to the earth. Tuck the tail between the legs. Lift the head with the hands. The shoulders lift off of the ground. And we take a tiny curl. Slowly lay yourself down. You might hold your head, giving your neck a bit of traction. Releasing the head, releasing the arms. Let's make this a little bit more in the bowspring style. So this time we're going to contract the belly and the back together, and we're going to get really long. Check overhead and see if you've got room to take a stretch. If you're going to run into something, just scoot down your mat a little bit. Let's tiptoe our toes in closer, enough that we can put our hands on our legs. Go ahead and push the hands into the legs to create a lengthening of the spine. Let the tail roll toward the floor while the belly and the heart start to arch and lengthen toward your chin. Take a breath in. Push the legs into the hands. In fact, let's float the feet off the ground. Now the hands are pushing to the legs. The legs are pushing to the hands. We're getting very long and active in the belly and the back. And now float the arms overhead. Keep drawing your knees in. Keep getting long and arched. Feel how this is like a morning stretch. And then let your tiptoes touch down and glide along. Keeping this lengthening stretch in your body. Exhale, soften all the way to doing nothing. That might be a 5-pointed star, kind of like we started with. But let's take a pause and do a body scan. Things are already feeling better for me in my body. My low back is not as achy, and that shin ache has disappeared as well. I hope that is true for you as well. You can stay there longer if you'd like. Eventually, we will all bring our arms in and we'll let one knee bend and then the other. Let's take a minute to do a little bit of a rocking twist. Arms out to the sides to give yourself some space, because we can let the arms roll with the body if we choose. Letting the feet come. I'm checking here's the edge of my mat. I don't want to go quite that wide, but kind of wide. And then we start to let the knees rock. Mine are going left, and my head is slowly turning to look right. I'm noticing I don't want to go very fast, and I'm really enjoying as my legs tipped left and I'm shifting this right hip a bit up to the sky and lengthening my kneecap away, my right kneecap away from my right shoulder. I'm getting a nice long sensation in the right quad through the right ribs. So you might find yourself wanting to pause in your twist and activate that more front line lengthening. Or you might find yourself wanting to rock back and forth, maybe moving with the breath. So you could take this one breath per side, squeezing your exhale into your twist, inhaling to center. Or you could take it longer and pause. If you like the washcloth version, when your knees go left, your left palm turns down to the earth, your right palm turns up, and you look to the right. It exaggerates the twisting in the body. If you liked that, the next time your knees go right, your left palm will turn up, your right palm will turn to face the floor. And that kind of curls your right shoulder into the heart and it presses your left shoulder into the earth. So it's not just about the twist in the waist or through the hips, it's also about finding that pressing on one shoulder and lifting on the other. When you feel complete with your twist, whether it's a held twist or a rocking twist, we will meet back up in center. Here's where you can have the optional spinal strip if you want to. You could lift up and put it, oh my shirt is baggy, put it behind your waist to let your tail then press down. But you don't have to have that. We're going to do a practice of lifting and then dipping our tail. The spinal strip just ensures that we keep the low back off the ground, but we can do that muscularly anyway. So either way, your choice, with the prop behind your waist or without. Arms lay by the sides. And then we're going to take a different arm position. I'm going to invite you to float the elbows a bit. And you remember dome hands? And then a double dome hand is where you put the fingertips and the thumb tips together. And not in this twisted position, I was just showing you. And then go ahead and lightly press into the fingers. Lift the heart, press the shoulders back. Breathe into the back ribs. You're going to breathe into all your ribs. And exhale. So feel how that activated this whole arm and chest part of the body. We're going to do that along with our legs, but we'll do the legs and then we will combine everything. So laying the arms by your sides again, press into the feet, but lift the arches by imagining that you can pull the top of the foot toward the shin. Root through the big toe ball of foot, pinky toe ball of foot, and the two corners of the heel while you rise through the arch. Pressing into the feet, we lift the behind. Coming up into your little bridge. And then bring your mind's eye to the tip of your tail and imagine your tail now trying to dip down toward your heels. So it's almost like your feet are going to pull your body toward them. Mind you, try not to get a cramp in your hamstring. And at the same time, the belly and the heart lift and lengthen while the tip of the tail dips down. This is a lot of work in the lumbar spine. And dip it right back up. So like you have a quill pen that you're going to dip into an inkwell and then lift out again. Dip your tail down, keep your arches lifted, draw your tail toward your heels, keep your belt line off the ground, and settle all the way in once you drop your tail down. So give your back a little rest. If you need to take these little tick-tocks with the knees, you could add that in. We're going to come back to our bridge pose. And this is where we'll add in the arms as well. So we'll make this where our whole body is quite active here. So we're really building strength and integrity. And yet we're still laying on the ground. Rooting into your feet, but rising your arches. Roll the tip of the tail toward the earth. And now lift at the belly button like a balloon is coming to rise your belly. And another one is rising your heart. I guess it's raising. Once you get up here into your arched bridge, let your fingertips come together in front of you, fingertips and thumb tips. Push them together. Press the shoulders toward the earth. You're activating really most of the body at this point. Breathe into your back ribs. Keeping your hands here, dip your tail down. Get really long through the belly. Hands come to horseshoes at the legs. Press hands into legs, legs into hands. You might have to come to tiptoes to do it. Feel how this is like that morning stretch through the back and belly. And then soften or add on the arms reaching overhead again, if that is something that your body would feel good with. If it's not, it might be sprawling all the way out again, or it might be a rocking twist. So I was asking you to do a lot with your back muscles. So be gentle now and kind and let them rest in whatever way is best for you. I felt like stretching would be best, but now I don't feel like that's true, and I feel like I need to do a little twist. So it's okay to think something and then change your mind and try a different way. We're going to work toward the wall. It's going to be like we did the other day, where we laid close to the wall and then we just swing our legs around and voila, there they are. But we're going to be a little bit closer. So our butts are going to be, mine's maybe 3 inches from the wall, whereas when I had the class where I had my feet on the door, my butt was about 1.5 feet away from the wall. And the reason I want you so close is so that we can do some things like this reclining bound angle, and that's where these blocks might come in handy. We're not going to go there immediately, but if you're really far from the wall, there's no support there for you. Let me just talk a little bit about what your back is going to be like with your legs up the wall. So a couple different things could happen. One is you might start feeling like your tail is rounding and tucking, and that's okay. Yin does not require that we keep our arch and our tail toward the ground. But if you are really liking that feeling of arching your back over something, I forgot to get another blanket. You could have like a folded blanket. I've got a pillow here that turns into something that you keep under your back to help make a little bit of like a waterfall, like your back is dropping off a waterfall. I feel like that's too much today. That's not where my body's wanting to go, but you can make prop adjustments as you need to. So let's settle in here. Just lingering. So you might notice that with your legs up the wall, you are basically doing a forward fold. If you were standing on your feet, you would be halfway to folding over your legs right now. There might not be a lot happening in the backs of the legs at the moment, but that's okay. We're going to just linger here and allow a bit of time. Something you could add if you're feeling like your legs aren't really staying very well, you could get your belt and make yourself a loop around the thighs. And we are going to be moving our legs, so if you don't want to get, all trussed up like that, you don't have to, and it can lend stability, which feels nice. As you linger here, notice any changes. So I just noticed that I could scoot a little closer now that I've been here for a few moments. See if you can soften the belly the pelvic floor, the skin of the forehead, the cheeks, the jaw, the ears, and the scalp. Let the eyes settle deeper in their sockets. Arms could be out to the sides or resting on the belly, or one hand at the heart and one at the belly. Now, what do you do if your feet or legs start to feel like they're going to fall asleep? It's probably an indication that something is getting impinged, and then you might want to just back off the wall a little bit, scoot away, give a bit of space, and let the knees bend a little bit as well. Let's take another 3 to 5 breaths. Letting each breath bring us a bit more ease, a bit more softness, and a quieter breath. I'm going to offer an option for moving toward bound angle. But if you're feeling like, oh, I'm just settling in, this feels so good to be right here, then you are certainly welcome to stay right here. If you decide you would like to take bound angle, you may have to experiment with your closeness or farness from the wall. We just start to let the heels slide down the wall, let the knees bend, and begin to let the knees open out to the sides. I was going to say the palms of the feet. The soles of the feet come together, and I like to have my elbows bent and my hands just resting at my knees, and that can support the legs enough. But this is where having those 2 blocks for your legs to land on can be very supportive. Now that's a little bit awkward, I think, because I'm a little too close to the wall. So I'm going to just experiment with scooting off of the wall a bit. I don't know if I like these. Oh, there we go. The heels may come closer to the perineum, or they may stay in this more of a diamond bound angle. That felt nice too. Or props just might end up being too distracting, and you would rather just work with the body to prop itself and the wall. Find your comfortable position. And remember, you don't have to do this upside down. You could lay on your mat and use a bolster under your legs to find reclining bound angle that way. The nice thing about being on the wall is it just orients our body differently. It helps the blood flow, the lymph come back to the center. But we don't have to be upside down. Good. Take a breath and sigh it out. Every time I sigh, I notice I can let go of a little bit more tension. If you want to add a little bit extra for the neck, here's where you could gently rock your head to one side and then maybe tuck your chin to the collarbone and then lift it away from the collarbone. So you're going to give yourself a snarl on the back of your head, but it can be worth it to get into any of these tight neck muscles. Remembering to take that on each side if you are choosing to add this neck mobility piece. With yin, we come to the appropriate place and then we hold position. But what if we went too far and we didn't realize it in the beginning? That's okay. You can just come out a little. You don't have to stay in a place that becomes uncomfortable. Alternatively, what if the body has changed and it allows you to go deeper? That's okay too. Allow that change as necessary in your body. Remembering the idea that the fascia needs time to find length, time to be hydrated, time to make a change. Let's take another 3 to 5 breaths here. When you decide it's time to come out, help your legs. Take your knees in your hands, support some of the weight of the legs to bring the knees toward each other and then up the wall. Sending the legs straight up the wall back to our original position. Pausing here for a few breaths. Now, our next position is a little bit tricky to describe and get into. I'm going to cue it for the right leg to stay on the wall, but depending on your setup, you might do the other one, and that's okay too. What's going to happen is we're going to just bend our knees and plant our feet on the wall, and then walk your feet to the left. Lift your butt, slide your butt to the left and then just scoot your body until you are at about a 45-degree angle to the wall. Now your left foot can land down on the ground. And I'm going to move my slippery blanket. If you feel cramped to the wall, you can scoot your distance a little bit away. And the right leg can go straight up the wall again. And then this is where we can start to add motion and mobility in our right leg. So what's going to happen is our right leg is going to glide along the wall, toward our heads. And we're going to start having sensation either in the hamstring or in the adductor. If it's happening in your knee, undo it a little bit. And then we linger. So here we are in a pose, and we're just laying here with one leg up the wall in this kind of restful yet full of sensation position. This is kind of like when we lay on our backs and we have a belt to our foot. So you can experiment a little bit with finding your hip bones and sending your tail, dipping it down toward the ground, just to notice where you feel the sensation. Eventually, we don't try to force a position or hold a position, and that's why the wall is so great, because it holds us for us. You may need to make a change by scooting closer or further away. And I'm noticing that my knee is wanting to just kind of flop, but then I don't really have any sensation. So I'm going to bend my right elbow, rest my elbow on the ground, and just support right above or right the thigh side of my right knee with my right hand. So that will assist me in keeping my leg more straight. Bring your mind's eye into the sensation in your body. Breathe into those places that are calling out to you. See if you can purposely unclench somewhere where you just noticed you're holding tension. Let yourself settle into the quiet. Soften the jaw. You might lick the lips and swallow. Soften the throat. And let us take up to 5 more breaths. If you need to come out before I call it, you can just let your knee bend and start to let this foot unstraighten. And ease your leg to the floor. I'll call it after another 4 or so breaths now. But always knowing you can come out sooner. Remembering that trick of sighing to help the body find ease and release. And if you haven't yet come out, if you're propping your knee with your hand, you can unprop a little. And I'm still supporting my knee, but now I'm assisting my knee to bend. Let your foot slide along the wall toward your leg, and then bring your right ankle to your left knee. You might need to lift up a little bit to align yourself so that your shoulders and hips are in the same alignment. And then go ahead and butterfly this right knee a few times. We'll move into a hip opener on this right side, and I'll give a couple options for how to hold this. The first, of course, would be to just stay right where you are. You're already good. Adding sensation would be to float the left foot off the ground, drawing both legs in toward you, where you could then add a block under your foot if you wanted. Or you could do kind of this funny little, you have to rotate your left hip out and plant your left foot. And now we're doing a partial square pose. Square pose is where, when you're sitting on your butt, you cross one ankle over one knee, and then the other knee is on top of the other ankle. This is a little bit of a gentler version of that, but you're still going to notice quite a bit in the right hip. If you feel like you're too twisty, you could push off the wall with your right hand and just scoot yourself back to this more square to the wall aligned position. And then your left foot can creep up the wall if it wants to, or come closer to the body, depending on what the right butt and hip allow. So let's linger here for a few minutes. And I should also say, you can just hold your right leg. So if you want to stir your right heel, like you've got a spoon attached to your heel, you're going to stir your leg around, you're welcome to add that in. We're not going to stay extra long on this right hip, but we're just getting into it a bit before we walk our way over to do the hand to big toe pose on the second side. In Yin, it's more like half dragonfly, I think is what we would call it. Last option for ankle to knee, if you have squared up to the wall or if you haven't, either way, it doesn't matter. You can take a little twist, letting the legs tip over to the left, noticing how that increases sensation in this right hip and butt. Take a breath all the way down into these muscles that are tight and holding. And sigh it out. Use your core to unwind yourself. You decide, do you need to set your left foot down before you uncross your right? Or if you're more square, do you slide your left leg long before you uncross the right? Let's all meet back up with legs up the wall as kind of a balancing equilateral pose. And that will get us in position to take our, well, we're not doing our hand to big toe, but as if we were going to do that on the other side. Notice any sensations in this right leg compared to the left. So I'm feeling like this is quite energized. There's a lot of sort of tingliness going on the right side. When you feel ready, let us move on to the left side. So you might just walk your feet down the wall and then walk them over to the right, scoot your body to the left and then the hips to the right. You're just kind of wiggling yourself until you're at this approximately 45-degree angle from the wall. So for me, that means I can just set my left hand on the wall as my starting point. All right. I don't want my right foot to slip, so I'm going to get it off of the blanket. Your closeness of your butt to the wall right now, my butt is from my thumb to my pinky spread out. That's how far it is. We'll see if that's right. We'll start to glide our left leg closer to our head along the wall. Well, this one's tight, so I'm good. We'll just see where we end up, right? Because we've got time, plenty of time to allow this opening in the leg. So differences in our sidedness, and I know I've shared this before, but right now my hamstring from my way long ago injury is tight, so I'm not feeling anything in the inner thigh because I can't even get my leg that way because of how tight my hamstring is. So if something like that is happening to you and you're happy with where the feeling is, then you're good. But if you're wanting to affect a different place, you might just make a change with how you're oriented to the wall. So for example, I just scooted away. Now I can't even quite reach it with my hand, but I moved the sensation from my hamstring to my inner thigh. And that's where I was going for. That's where I wanted it to be. So you can choose though. Where do you want the sensation? Do you need to support this left leg with the left hand? Now I'm needing to scoot in again just a little bit so I can support my leg. And it's kind of this horseshoe position with your hand for me that is working good to support my leg. You might notice your right knee wanting to open up a bit as a counterbalance. That's fine. And then we get there. We find the place where we are not straining to hold a pose, but we do have sensation. And then we take a breath. And we sigh it out. And then we linger. Right arm could be out to the side or resting on the belly. Whatever brings you ease and comfort. Yin gives us time to explore any emotions that we might be holding in our bodies. I just read a funny quote. Some of you have probably heard it. Tissues have issues, meaning we hold things in the tissues of our bodies. And this is a time where we have the time to allow ourselves to notice. This is a safe space, your own space in your own home. If emotions arise, allow them. Breathing into emotion or sensation, or lack of sensation or lack of emotion. Let us continue to find the breath. Let's take up to 5 more breaths here. If you have a teeny bit more space in you, allow it. And when you feel complete, support your knee in bending. You could use one hand or both hands. Let the heel start to settle more toward your behind, letting this left leg come back into alignment with the right. I kind of ended up at a funny angle. I'm going to set both feet down before I cross my ankle to knee. When you feel ready, you can add that left ankle landing on the right knee. Butterfly that left knee in and out a few times. And then make your choice. Do you stay here? Do you float the right foot and draw both legs in? Do you rotate the right leg so that you can plant your right foot, I'm really crooked here, on the wall? Or do you rotate your whole body so that you are square to the wall and you've got your right foot fairly braced? Or do you hold your left leg and just take it in your hands and stir it around? So picking the place that feels most right for you today. And we'll take a few breaths here. I'm going to scoot off of the wall a little bit more. And then allowing yourself to take that twist over to the right. So it's possible your right foot just glides along the wall until the side of your right leg lands. And then the left knee can be drawn in toward the floor or pointed up at the sky. So just adding in this bit of a twist with this left hip opener. When you feel complete, find some core integrity, unwind your twist. Depending on where you are, if your right foot is on the wall, you might slide it higher in order to uncross. If you're on the wall, you can take this legs on the wall. If your legs were already on the ground, you might just glide them out into that 5-pointed star. Either way, let's all take a bit of that 5-pointed star, whether the feet are on the wall or the floor. Heels come a bit wider, arms spread out to the sides. And we take a check-in. What are we noticing in our body? If your legs are still on the wall, I invite you to glide your feet a little lower, bending the knees. Let's hug the knees into us and then roll over to curl up on your side on your mat for a few breaths. You can get a little bit of a pillow if you need, or you can just lay on your arm as a pillow. Let's move into a bit of a strengthener before we take our final resting position. We've done this quite a few times now already. Side bow position. When we were laying on our back and we brought our hands to our legs and we pushed to get longer through the body and send our tail behind us. It's very much the same thing now. I've got so many piles of things. But we're side oriented. So with our underneath arm, I don't care which arm, just whatever side you're laying on, let that one be a pillow for your head. It may also become a head where you push your head into your hand, and that'll be an option. Take your top arm and set it on your thigh of your top leg in a horseshoe position. push gently into the leg with the hand, but resist. Pull the leg toward the body, but not so you curl up and smush your belly. Pull in so your tail goes behind you and you get extra long through your belly. Okay? Good. So this is side bow. You're already doing it. Now, if you want to add on more difficulty, float your top leg. Draw the top of your foot toward your shin without flexing your toes. Push into your leg with your hand. Push your tail behind you. Lengthen through the belly. One more level. Hand that's behind your head. Push into your hand and push your hand into your head. So we've just activated the whole body. And soften. Stretch your underneath arm out long so you can just let your shoulders open to the side, and we end up in a little twist. And let's send our top leg out long in front of us like we're going to kick somebody in the behind if we were actually in a studio sharing space. And then take it the other way, and you might send your top arm the opposite. So almost like you are a pendulum or a teeter-totter in the top of your body, swinging your leg forward and your arm back, and then your arm forward and your leg back. Good. Getting a little twist and a little lengthening through the whole side body. When you are ready to switch sides, just let yourself roll onto your back. I'm totally off my mat now. Scoot yourself until you can roll onto your second side. I'll just swing around so that I'm still facing you. We're curled up now on side 2, laying our head on our arm so that our hand can press to the back of the head if we desire it. We start thinking about lengthening the tail and the pubic bone behind us and getting this belly feeling really long but also very strong. And we help activate that by placing our horseshoe hand on our thigh just above the knee. Press into the leg, but pull the leg into the hand at the same time. Doing that to stay long, not to curl in. Okay? This is a great place to stay. If you want to add a bit more intensity, float your top leg, maybe 1 inch to 8 inches. Draw the top of your foot toward your shin. You could do it with both legs if you want. Keep your toes relaxed. Keep your belly and back lengthening. Press into your hand with your head and your head with your hand. Getting long and strong through the whole body. Take a breath. Soften everything down. Let your underneath arm stretch out a bit. I don't know if that feels weird to you. I like it. Let yourself be comfortable, however that is. And we'll find that tick-tocking. Reach your top arm long and above your head. Kick with your foot. It's a very slow kick. It's a pendulum motion with the leg and the arm. So when the arm reaches forward, the leg reaches backward. And then we switch, reaching the leg forward and the arm backward. Taking this a time or two. We're kind of rolling over our bottom arm. Let yourself settle out into this twist. You can rest your legs in a curled up position. Top arm rests behind you. And we just rest open in a twist. And then let your legs follow so that you end up on your back. If you've fallen off of your mat, just find it with your fingertips. Realign yourself. And just like we started, Float your feet, press your hands to your legs to your hands, tailbone points at the ground. We lengthen the body and then set your tiptoes down, glide your legs long, reach overhead, stretch into your starfish position, rolling out wrists and ankles, finding length through the calves by pulling the toes toward the shins, and then eventually settling into your 5-pointed star in a resting star. And take a body scan again. Remember how we started. I don't have any of the same aches and pains that I did when we began. I feel different things. A bit of tingly energy, some fatigue. But I don't have the soreness, and I hope that's true for you as well. Let yourself begin to settle toward Shavasana. If that means taking some other movement before you do, that's fine. If that means putting on your socks or your sweater or getting a blanket, get yourself situated so you can rest fully. Begin to let the breath settle. If it had been a bit active, allow it to become softer again. Let the skin on the face begin to soften. Let the sigh of the breath indicate to your nervous system that quiet time is safe time. Let your awareness drift more internal, allowing awareness of the heartbeat and the pulse points in the body. Forgiving yourself when your mind jumps to your to-do list and bringing it back again to the breath, to this time, this place, this moment. And since this is your home practice, you are welcome to stay as long as you want. So from whatever position you are choosing, letting us bring our hands to our heart, closing eyes, thank yourself for giving yourself this time to practice yoga. Thank yourself for this dedication that you have to the health of your mind, body, and spirit. May we all be filled with peace and ease and bring that out with us into the world. Namaste.
Thank you for joining me today. If you found this practice useful or enjoyable, please consider giving this video a thumbs up and subscribing to this channel. Thank you. I'll see you next time on Yoga with Sara.